Welcome back. Later on today we will meet for Zoom communion, and if you want to join in, just get in touch with me for a link. Over the last few weeks we've been thinking about different characters from the Bible, from the Old and New Testaments. Last week we spoke about Timothy, and this week I'd like to talk about one of the Marys in the Bible. There's the obvious, very famous Mary, the mother of Jesus, but there are other Marys, and today it's Mary from Bethany that I want to think about. Mary is the sister of both Martha and Lazarus, and from the New Testament it's clear that this family were friends with Jesus. We hear that Mary was the woman who washed Jesus' feet and cleaned them with her hair. We come across Mary when her brother Lazarus dies, and by the time Jesus gets there, Lazarus has been dead for quite a long time. And Mary and her sister Martha both say, "If you'd been here, Lord, this wouldn't have happened." And Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead. But the story which I want to talk about today is one of my favourites. It's from Luke chapter 10. It's the story of when Jesus goes to the house at Bethany, to Mary and Martha and Lazarus' house. When Jesus arrives, Martha gets busy in the kitchen, but Mary comes through and she sits beside Jesus' feet along with the disciples, and she listens to him. Martha is not impressed. It would have been well known that Mary should have been through helping with Martha in the kitchen. You can imagine Martha getting more and more frustrated as she knows that Mary isn't helping. She's through there with the rest of the men, and Martha has been left to get all the drinks and the food together. Perhaps you've been in that position where you can't understand why you've been left to do everything while everybody else is having fun or doing something different. And if you've been in that position, then you can probably imagine Martha getting more and more grumpy and starting to slam cutlery drawers or bang cupboard doors a little bit louder. But eventually, when no one gets the hint, she storms through and she says, "Jesus, tell Mary to come and help me. She's left me doing all the work in the kitchen." But Jesus says to Martha, "Martha, you are fussing around trying to feed us all. The one thing that's important is to sit and learn. Mary is doing that important thing, and it won't be taken away from her." There's a lot we can learn from this story. All of us can learn from doing the one thing that is most important, sitting and learning from Jesus, making him our priority over everything else. But there's also the issue of where we expect women to be. Even today in most churches, you'll find the women doing stuff in the kitchen. Mary was to sit and to learn. That's what Jesus wanted from her. And he wouldn't take it away from her, even based upon expectations of the different roles of men and women in his time. If you think back to last week, we read from the letters to Timothy, and there's a controversial passage there about women being quiet in church. But the actual controversial thing in the time it was written would not be asking the women to be silent. It was the fact that it said women should learn quietly. The revolutionary thing there was that women should learn. They should be allowed to be disciples, to enter into learning. Christianity sometimes gets a bad press, as if it wants women to not be treated as equals. But actually, its founder, Jesus, and one of the most influential leaders within the church, Paul, both wanted women to learn. They didn't say a woman's place was doing the domestic stuff or the background stuff or the admin. Women were central to the early church in so many ways. And again, one of the things that stands out, although it's not this Mary, the very first people to learn of the resurrection and to go and teach the disciples of this truth were women. Again, for all of us, this emphasises the importance of learning. Growth in our faith and understanding is expected in Christian faith, and God has given us the Holy Spirit to help us in that learning. And that's for everybody. It doesn't matter who you are in the church. You might not think you're too scholarly, you might not think you're really a learner, but you are to learn. It's God's will for us, and He will equip us for that learning. You might not have got on too well at school, but you might surprise yourself that you can learn about Jesus and learn from him today.